With 9 days between games, the New Orleans Saints are the healthiest that they've been in many weeks. Several Saints are set to make their return in the City of Angels as they take on the Los Angeles Chargers, but LA is getting back a key piece themselves. Edge rusher Joey Bosa and that Chargers defense will look to make rookie quarterback Spencer Rattler's third start a Hollywood thriller. Meanwhile, the Saints will need all their stars to shine bright on the big stage in order to get back to their winning ways. So grab your popcorn, Saints fans, because there's sure to be a lot of action as Week 8 kicks off. Welcome to the Saints Game Day live on NewOrleansSaints.com. Today, I'm your host, Ross Jackson, host of the Locked On Saints podcast and beat writer over at LouisianaSports.net, standing in for the always incredible Aaron Summers, who's on Pelicans duty today. Aaron, I promise to make you proud today. The New Orleans Saints will take on the Los Angeles Chargers at 3:05 p.m. Central Time on Fox. And here to help us break down that big matchup as the New Orleans Saints look to get back in the win column is John DeShazier from over at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. What you got for us today, JD?
Well, good afternoon, Ross, and welcome to the team for today. Great pinch hitter, Ross Jackson. I'm here at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California, and the Saints are going to need some hands on deck if they are going to break this 5-game losing streak. Now, this Chargers team is a pretty good team under first-year coach Jim Harbaugh. Offensively, there's no deception here. Harbaugh-led teams are physical, and they'll ground and pound you any chance they get. These Chargers run for 117 yards a game, 4 yards a carry, but they average 29 rushing attempts per game, so they like to be physical. Expect a healthy dose of running back J.K. Dobbins, who has 478 yards and 3 touchdowns on 95 carries. But let's not forget at all that the Chargers also have a quarterback, Justin Herbert, not a Bear, Herbert, who's more than capable of making life miserable for the Saints. He's fully recovered from an ankle injury, and last week he had his best game of the season, completing 27 of 39 passes for 349 yards against the Cardinals. He's mobile. He's only thrown 6 touchdowns this season, but only 1 interception, and that happened in week 2. So that's 4 consecutive games, no interceptions for Justin Herbert, and he's only been sacked 12 times this season. Receiver Lat McConkey was questionable going into this game, but he is going to play, and he is their favorite target. Now, defensively, it begins on the ends. Khalil Mack, linebacker, is still bringing the heat at 33 years old. He's got a team-high 2.5 sacks, 5 passes defense, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. In his career, 104 sacks and 31 forced fumbles. On the other side, defensive end Joey Bosa missed 4 games, but he's expected back today, and he's got 2 sacks and a forced fumble this season. That's part of his 69 sack, 16 forced fumbles resume. The Chargers lead the league. They're the best defense in the league. They allow a league-low 13.8 points per game. They give up 295 total yards. That's 7th fewest in the league. 111 rushing yards. That's 9th fewest. And 184 passing yards. That's also 9th fewest. And finally, on special teams, Cameron Dicker, the kicker, has made 15 to 16 field goal attempts this season, including all 5 against Arizona. He's 5 of 6 from 50-plus yards. Well, that's it from here at SoFi. Ross, back to you in the studio.
Thanks a ton, JD. We're taking a look at the New Orleans Saints offense here, which is looking to get a lot healthier after their Thursday night football matchup. 9 days between games, and all of a sudden this looks like a brand new roster for the New Orleans Saints, who played without 7 of their 11 Week 1 starters on the offensive side of the football last week. Some of the players that they're expecting to get back include offensive linemen on the interior, Cesar Ruiz, as well as Lucas Patrick, wide receiver Chris Olave, and of course the do-it-all maestro himself, Taysom Hill, the Swiss Army knife that can do a little bit of everything. Where these players end up having a major impact for you is simple to see. Obviously, on the interior offensive line, getting Ruiz and Patrick back should buy rookie quarterback Spencer Rattler a little bit more time. Pressure up the interior on an offensive line for a rookie quarterback, always pretty hard to manage. Olave, of course, gives you a ton in the passing game as the Saints get their star wide receiver back, who only played 2 snaps with the rookie quarterback just 2 weeks ago before going going out with under concussion protocol. And then Taysom Hill, of course, gives you, well, an advantage everywhere. Special teams, the passing game, the blocking game, but of course has been a huge contributor to the team in their run game. So the Saints very happy to see those faces back. And they'll need them back because they're going up against the Los Angeles Chargers' #1 ranked scoring defense in the NFL. What you're looking for is for the New Orleans Saints to be able to attack that defense. At its front, they tend to play with what's called a box disadvantage, having fewer defenders than teams have blockers under typical situations. So it should benefit their run game for Alvin Kamara, who just signed that new 2-year extension. Very exciting for him. When it comes to the passing game, well, the Los Angeles Chargers play with a lot of space off the offensive line, off of the line of scrimmage when it comes to their cornerbacks and wide receivers. So look for the New Orleans Saints and Chris Olave to look to take advantage of that space. Chris Olave will make you pay if you give him a little bit too much. As for quarterback Spencer Rattler, what are some of the expectations for him? Well, I'm looking at 3 key things for Spencer Rattler. Manage the game so that he ends up being able to kind of get in rhythm, take his time, take what the defense gives him, play a clean game, try to keep away from the turnovers for the entire offense in this one, and of course rely on the playmakers, the return of guys like Taysom Hill and Chris Olave, and then of course with Alvin Kamara, you want to get the ball in their hands and let them make some plays. Now, John DeShazier gave us some of his kind of breakdown for this game, but he also got the opportunity to speak with head coach Dennis Allen ahead of this one. So let's hear Dennis Allen's thoughts up ahead of this Los Angeles Chargers matchup.
You return some guys on offense this week that can help out the young quarterback, Chris Olave and Cesar Ruiz and Lucas Patrick and Taysom Hill. How much help will that be for the young quarterback?
Yeah, look, I think it'll be big for the young guy to get some of these weapons back out there, get some of the interior of the offensive line back out there for him. Like I said, I think, when he's had, protection, I think he's operated pretty well. And so I think for our whole football team, I think there's a renewed energy when you start to get some of these guys back.
Run defense is something that you guys have wanted to correct or get a little bit better in. And I know you said communication has been an issue. Has that communication improved over the time that you guys have had to work on it?
Yeah, I think so. And look, I think having Pete Warner back out there, he's one of our better communicators on the defense. I think that's a big benefit to us.
Now, defensively for the Chargers, they have a couple of rush ins, but we don't talk enough about your offensive tackles. The young guys have done pretty good. Tale Fuaga and Trevor Penning. How have they played this season?
Yeah, look, I think they've both played well. I think there's been spots where they've got to improve, but that's to be expected with young players. So I think each day they go out there, I think they continue to improve a little bit.
The Chargers have a quarterback who's pretty recognized, Justin Herbert. Just what are some of the things that he's done well? Because he's only had 1 interception this season, and that was week 2, I think. So how do you force him into some turnovers?
Well, look, I think he's operating well. I mean, I think he's smart. He's hard to fool. He does a good job of taking what the defense gives him. He protects the football. And look, he's got more mobility than people really want to give him credit for. So I think he's playing really good football.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
All right. Thanks.
Dennis Allen and the New Orleans Saints clearly on a mission in this one to get back in the win column after 5 straight losses. And a big piece that you're going to be watching in this game is the New Orleans Saints defense, particularly their rush defense, right? Defense in the run game. The Chargers have made it a point of emphasis to run the football this year. They're number 11 in the NFL when it comes to rushing attempts. So they are absolutely committed to their run game, which right now is averaging 116.3 yards per game. So that's going to be a big metric to watch in this one. The New Orleans Saints gave up 502 rushing yards in 5 days when it came to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game and that Denver Broncos game. So they'd like to get back on the right side of things when it comes to the run defense. One of the biggest ways that the Saints are going to have to do that is going to be yards before contact. That's the amount of yards that a running back picks up before a defender even touches them. Week 1 and week 2, the Saints were at the top of the NFL in that metric, 0.3 yards before contact per carry. Well, that has boosted since week 3 to 3 yards per carry, amongst the most in the NFL. So Saints would like to get right when it comes to that. And a big part of that is going to be winning that line of scrimmage. We've heard Dennis Allen talk about that over and over again all throughout these last couple of weeks. The Chargers also, because they run the ball so much, they aren't throwing the ball a lot. Number 29 in the NFL when it comes to passing attempts. So they're not putting the ball in the air very much. If the Saints can force Justin Herbert, Los Angeles Chargers quarterback, and that Chargers offense to take to the take to the air a little bit more, it might be able to play into the advantage of that ball hawking secondary a little bit, get them playing outside of their comfort zone in that way. Of course, that's not something that the Chargers have done a lot of. Only 4 giveaways so far this season, but that New Orleans Saints defense has created at least 1 takeaway in each game so far this year. That's going to be a big one to watch in this game. Can the Saints force some mistakes out of that Los Angeles Chargers offense and take advantage of it with a pretty aggressive New Orleans Saints defensive attack? As for special teams, watch out for the kickers in this one. So far, Blake Grupe, New Orleans Saints kicker, is perfect on the season when it comes to field goals, 11 of 11, though he has missed 2 extra points. Cameron Dicker over with the Los Angeles Chargers, 15 of 16. So if the Saints get their defense where they want it to be, and the Chargers play up to their number 1 ranked scoring defense, this game could eventually come down to those field goal kickers. So a big one to watch there. Now let's take a look at the complete list of inactives for today's game against the Los Angeles Chargers. When you look at the inactives for this game, obviously you know that Derek Carr is going to be out for this matchup. It will be his 3rd consecutive absence while he deals with that oblique injury. Rookie quarterback Spencer Rattler now getting his 3rd start as well. So with that being the case, look for Derek Carr to potentially push to make his return in the coming weeks, ideally next week up against the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. Wide receiver Marquez Valdes-Scantling, the new acquisition by the New Orleans Saints, just signed earlier on this week, not ready to go just yet, so look for next week's opportunity for him to be able to make his debut in the black and gold. Meanwhile, you see a couple of other inactives here, taking a look at offensive lineman Nick Saldiveri, as well as a couple of rookies in this matchup as well. Linebacker Jalen Ford, tight end Dallin Holker, and of course Christian Boyd, the big defensive tackle who they drafted in this year's class. Those 3 rookies very likely pushed down a little bit with the return of some important players at their position. Colin Saunders, defensive tackle, back in the lineup. Linebacker Pete Werner back in the lineup. And then, of course, Taysom Hill helping out as well when it comes to that tight end group. And then not to be forgotten as well, wide receiver Cedric Wilson Jr. dealing with a hip injury, out for this game. We'll see if he's able to make his way back next week. Let's get to some of our final thoughts and a look at this game for the New Orleans Saints. The way that I see it here, the New Orleans Saints need this win. This is a must-win for this team coming off of that 5-game losing streak. They'd love to get back in the win column, as we've mentioned before. It's going to take winning that line of scrimmage on the defensive side, playing cleanly and comfortably over on the offensive side, and trying to find those explosive plays, which they have had some trouble garnering without Rashid Shaheed, who's done for the season after getting meniscus surgery just a couple weeks ago. So something big for the New Orleans Saints on offense is certainly something you're going to be looking for in this one. So the New Orleans Saints in Los Angeles, ready to take on those Los Angeles Chargers here in just about an hour or so. And of course, we'll also be joining you here on the post-game show once this game is all said and done. Myself and Scott Shanley here to break it all down and give you every single detail that you need. And of course, you can find more of me over with Locked On Saints, with the Locked On Saints podcast, free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. And of course, over with lasports.net as well, all throughout the game and throughout the week with additional coverage. Well, that's going to do it for us here at the studio as we get ready for this matchup. I know Saints fans are hungry for a win. Let's see if the New Orleans Saints can give it to them, because I promise you, just as much as you want that dub, so do the New Orleans Saints. Let's see if they can go and get it.